So, good evening, friends. Welcome to the week 6 session of BUS 610 Applied Project or Applied Research Project. Now, this is very crucial session, the third session. This session is about data collection and analysis. As I was referring to this before our class, that each research project requires different data. So in this session, we will be discussing about the types and nature of the data out of which you will be selecting what type of data you can get and where you can get it from. Of course, as a supervisor, at one-to-one, I will be in touch with you and I will be trying to give you answer of all your questions about your research. But the overall idea about data collection and the different tools of analysis we will get in this session. As I mentioned, this is the third session. The first session was on the research proposal, which was directly linked with assessment 1, which is research proposal. The second session was in week 3 and which was aligned with assessment 2, the submission 1 of your project. And this is the session 3, which is highly aligned with assessment 3. Now, there are two sessions which has been aligned with assessment 3, week 6 session and week 8 session. It is worth to have a concentration that will definitely help you in assessment 3. Now, when we hear about the data, which is information in common language, now this information is a very broad term. Okay, information can be qualitative, can be quantitative, can be just a rumor, can be very important information, can be related information, can be non-related information. Now, for example, uh, uh, suppose Sneha is doing project on banking performance evaluation, and we are getting information about Russia-Ukraine war. Now, is it any directly relation of this information to the project? Our answer is no. But the news about Russia-Ukraine war is information? Answer is yes. So what I was trying to say you that information can be of any type or any nature, but that for as a researcher, we need to identify the data or information into the two categories: the related data and unrelated data. Related data means the data that is useful for your research project. And unrelated data, of course, it is very much important, but there is nothing to do with your project. Okay, suppose you are working on foreign direct investment of Australia, and you get information or detailed information about performance of retail sector in Australia. So is that information is important? The answer is yes. But that is it related to your FDI project? Answer is no. So you have to identify related and unrelated data or related information and unrelated information. So the major objective of this session would be you would be understanding the different data collection strategies. Secondly, the different types of the data that you can use for your project. And then lastly, the different tools, the fundamental basic tools, analytical tools to analyze the data. Now, very easy, like everyone can say that the first source of getting information is your internet search. Secondly, you can use your library, your supervisor consultation, your consultation with me, and I might give you some direct hint or some authorized web links that I have access to. I can grant to access to you as well. And of course, that the material in your learning management system, your Moodle, we have. But these are basic sources of the data that you are all aware with. But then how to use it, like in internet search, how to do an advanced search. how to get exact the thing. Like, in very first week or a second week, most of the students were searching a research paper on the topic that they are interested in. And with that help, they were finalizing their research topics. Okay. So you are already using this willingly, unwillingly, knowingly, unknowingly. Similar way, even library also, like, when you ask librarian, like I ask my librarian, I always get something new to learn. Oh, this is how you can search. Oh, this is how you can get. Oh, this is how you can get even supplements of that particular book. Oh, this is how you can get some narrations. This is what the review that different authors have said about this book. Now, it is not very hand-picked and a very easy, user-friendly information in the library. But then you need to know that the specific techniques, how to use the resources, even including internet search. The data collection strategy largely depend upon your objective, what you want to do, and what data you need and why. Think about, you have got this data, what you will do with that data. Now, these are the major questions. What is the objective? What you want to do? Objective of your research. What is the major source of data? Now, for example, for Sneha's project, the major source of data is annual reports of the bank. There will be other reports from the big four consultants, but then the primary resource is this. How much time available? Now, this is week 6. Maximum in a week, 10 days time, you are submitting assessment 2. So you need to make sure that what data will be there and how you are going to use it for assessment 3. Now, as I said, this session is linked with assessment 3. The week 3 session was linked with assessment 2, what you are submitting right now. So the students who has any doubt about assessment 2, they can refer to that video. They can refer to that uh, the PowerPoint presentation or lecture slides that you have on Moodle. How much complicated this data is, like what form do you are going to get data? Like if it's a simple spreadsheet, that's okay. But what about that if you are getting data in the Word pages or a PDF pages, you have to convert it into Excel. It is quite challenging and time consuming. What analysis you want to perform? Now your data has the requirement of the data has direct relation with what analysis you will do. Now, Jasprit was or someone was saying that the sample size was 30. So for the primary data, so like for the questionnaire. Now, first thing that you have to justify whether the 30 is enough. If I want to know the challenges that international students have in Australia, and I ask random 15, 20, 30 students, and they say, oh, well, I am having a good job, I don't have any issue, my college is like this, and my studies are like this, I just require 4-5 hours, it is more than enough for me, and I'm getting 80% minimum. Now, if I get 30 students like this, and based on their feedback, I just conclude, oh, in Australia, international students have really fun. They have a good life. They have blah, blah, blah. There is no challenges. Is this true? Answer might not be right, because I have just asked 30 students. In Australia, every year, 150,000 new student comes. And I'm asking just 30 and concluding 450,000. It's not right. So what analysis you have to perform, your data requirement is directly linked with this question. If you want to do t-test chi-square, first of all, you need to have enough sample size, authentic sample size. And then whatever data variables you required, you find that and then perform the statistical or analytical tests. When you get the data, it is always strongly suggested that to use multiple data collection methods rather than sticking with one. That will solve your two purposes. First, you will have the authenticity of your data. And second purpose is that you will see and you will have a reference that what other authors have done with that data. So that will, you can put it into your literature review chapter. Effective use of available data until they are clean, defined, and accurate. The primary data is never accurate, never clean, never defined, never structured. Like clean could be clean, but never structured. Now somebody is having, so there's a questionnaire, and then he is filling up questionnaire for like from 50 employees. Now, what data he will have? He will have like 50 hard copy of the questionnaire or a Word file of the questionnaire. Now he has to convert into the Excel to perform any test to conclude anything concrete. Data needs to be original, like it must not be copy pasted. This is the only place that I don't show any mercy, any consideration. Your academic integrity. And that's why I have stopped sharing screen. Okay. You must have witnessed that I'm not that fussy about the deadline. I do 24 hours, 48 hours, just like that. There are 10 new students came in week 3 and I extend the deadline by 1 week for submitting the first assessment. I'm not that fussy, but I'm very much fussy about academic integrity. I have my chat GPT in my computer. I have my train Bolt also in my computer. I have a plagiarism tracker, the advanced American software also in my computer. Before I mark your assessment, your assessment will go through with all these 3 softwares. So if at all you are thinking that, oh, I have used this and my plagiarism cannot be catched, with one click, I will convert into the original sentences. So please, 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 if at all somebody is thinking of contract cheating, just giving some money to someone and to do your assessment, please avoid that. There are large chances that you will be called hold of. And if it has been identified, please don't come to me. If you want any additional chance, you want to apologize, go to the higher management, your associate dean, head of discipline, etc., etc., because I will not accept that apology. This is a serious, serious matter. I take it. Okay. So it must not be copy pasted. Okay. If you are struggling with your assessment, please let me know. I will help you out. I will work with you. But if you are thinking that, okay, I will pay to someone to make the assessment, I bet you will be caught. I bet. If you are thinking that, okay, I will take it this from here, from this from here, and that from here, and I will submit it, you will be get hold of. Even though there is 1% plagiarism, because I read each line, each word. And that is the reason that I have checked just 4 assessment of assessment 1. Okay. I take time in marking. So if at all somebody might be thinking about in this line, they might have another thought on it. Decide the protocol that you want to follow. Now, what does it mean? That you have to decide the step of the analysis. So for example, I have data of 30 participants. I have data in Excel. Now, first of all, what I will do, I will have average. I will have a cumulative average or of 5 weeks cumulative average. Then what I will do, I can have something in line of, I can have a correlation. Then I can have a ANOVA regression analysis. And based on this, I can test this hypothesis. And I can run this chi-square and t-square analysis. So you have scheduled it. So you have to make it protocol. So that was your research proposal, actually the first assessment. You are not supposed to submit your project, but the original intention of that first assessment is that you must know what you are going to do or what you are doing. Now there are different approaches of the data collections. As I said previously, structured approach, where you know exactly what you want to do and where you will get it from. And the collection of the data method is saying Asad is having one questionnaire and he is looking after, he is taking response from each respondent on the same questionnaire so that he can do like a scale analysis. Sneha is having very structured approach. She knows that she wants this data for each bank for this years, and where she is going to get it from annual report. So that is a structured approach. Semi-structured approach means what? Something you are going to get from here, something you are going to get it from there, but it is not unstructured. It is semi-structured, means there are more than one sources. The method is still systematic, follow general procedures, but data is not collected exactly from one place. The data is collected from the multiple places. So that is the semi-structured approach. Quantitative approach, where the numerical forms are available. I'm sure all of you will have this quantitative approach because it is very, very challenging for any student to use qualitative approach for the applied research project. This is qualitative approach basically is for the fundamental research and not for applied research. So for applied research, you need to have numbers. You need to have quantitative data that you can analyze. And you can derive finding based on analysis. And your findings will be the answer of your research questions. Okay. So make sure you use this quantitative approach. You can have a structure or semi-structure, it depends, but then based on the collection approach, need to have a quantitative. If at all somebody want to use qualitative, as I said in the very first class, they need to ask permission because I don't want you take a risk with your unit. So if you want to conduct statistical analysis, want to be very precise, that applied project has to be. Know what you want to measure, your objective and research question, and want to cover the large group, of course, yes, then you have to use quantitative data. The qualitative data, as I said, it is used for the fundamental research. This subject is applied project, not fundamental projects. Okay. So if you want to build up narrative, you want to give some in-depth information and set up the trend, are not sure about what you are going to do and what you are measuring. Just like a Columbus, take your boat and went into the sea and let's see where we reach. Okay. And do not to qualify for the result. You don't require any concrete result. Then you can use qualitative approach. Now, as I said, I'm telling it again, this narrative is only for the fundamental research. It is not applicable and related data for you. You need to have a quantitative data. You need to have a data that can be analyzed. You can't present someone's analysis. You have to do analysis your own for your project. And marks are for that. If you see marking rubrics, you will find 60% out of 100 is your objective research methodology and data analysis. Okay, next is your collection tool. There are different methods and tools to collect the data, like, it's a participatory method, secondary data and records to get observational methods. You can do survey or interview with help of questionnaire, focus group, diaries, Delphi method, expert judgment, and other way to collect data. This is a how different way you can collect the data. So these are the different ways that you can collect the data. Now we are coming from collection to the analysis. How you can do the analysis. So there are different concepts that often students use to analyze their data in your applied project. For example, unvariant analysis, where there is only one variable and you are analyzing that very particular variable with a specific value category. Like you just evaluate that performance. For example, somebody is evaluating FDI's trend in Australia. So that only one trend, like what is FDI in Australia per year, and then okay, then they can conclude, okay, in 2010 it was this, in 2020 it was this, in 2015 it was this. So this was the reason why it is increased, or these were the reason why it is decreased. So unvariant analysis. Bivariant analysis is that at least between two variables, where at one variable is your figure of FDI, and the second column the unemployment ratio, and you are trying to establish relationship between the unemployment ratios in Australia and the FDI. So when you establish the relationship, you might conclude that in the year when FDI is increased, unemployed ratio is less, or vice versa, when FDI is more, or unemployment ratio is also more. Or you might conclude that there is no direct relationship between FDI and unemployment in Australia. So it's a bivariant. Two variables are there. Multivariant analysis, where more than two variables are there and you establish relationship among them, between them. Now, there could be the 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 two major purpose of analysis. Your project could be descriptive, which gives just informative, which is not required and expected in a applied project. Your descriptive research means what? Like you are providing supportive information with your analysis for the particular objective. And inferential uh, uh, analysis, which is used with the sample from the total population. You know, that is what, like, most of the students who are doing primary data, they are using it. Now, in a such organization or somebody else case study, suppose 200 employees are there, and you are taking 50 out of 200 and concluding findings for the 200 based on 50 students analysis, then it is called like sample. This is most common used for the applied project when there is a primary data involved. Parametric versus non-parametric. Like, parametric means what previously established test and techniques you are using, like a t-square and chi-square and ANOVA and etc. etc. And non-parametric means what? That you are using a specific model. For example, Sneha is using camel model, which is not that common. Okay, it is exclusively that model is used for banking performance evaluation only. So you can have a different non-parametric and parametrical test. I will not take much time here right now, but then once you are done with your data, I will suggest individually which test or which analytical tool could be applicable. So before you use anything, please discuss with me. Creation and description of the data set. So there are different statistical concept or statistical tools that you can use, like a frequency distribution, your graphical presentation, like bar charts, graph, line charts, pie charts, and then in frequency distribution, in different array is an arrangement of data of small to highest. Like you can organize data. It's just a data visualization, like so different frequency distribution you can use, different approach for the presentation that you can use, like a chart or in the table or in something else. And then most importantly and most threshold fundamental analysis is your measure for central tendency, like a median mode, uh, median mode, and then you establish relation. Okay, what is an average performance of these and what is an average performance of these? What happen if the average performance of this variable is increasing? What is the impact of this variable? Or if what is the degree of impact? Like if if my sales is increased by 100% and my profit is increased by 10%, so that is not so good. Like last year I have $100,000 sales and my profit was $10,000. Now this year I have 200,000 sales. I expect my profit will be $20,000, 100% increase, but it is increased by $100 or $1,000 only. And now my profit is $11,000. So something terrible wrong with my cost structure. There is something terribly wrong in my operational strategy, that my sales is increasing by 100%, profit is just increased by 10%, which is not that favorable situation. So what we have done here, we have done just mean the average. We just analyze the average of uh, sales and then average margin and try to base to relationship. And I can conclude after studying 5 years, I can say that okay, if my sales on an average increase by 100%, my profit is increasing by 10%, whether it is favorable or not. Your job as a researcher, your job as a researcher uh, your is to find the data and present it as it is. You can suggest this should be done or this could be done, but you don't have any data to any right to manipulate the data. Then only the ideal findings will be there. Now here I want to tell you very much important lesson for uh, this unit, that it might possible that suppose Asad is doing a feasibility report for Pakistan IT industries. Now I don't know the things, but then he might be deriving, okay, there are too many risks and there are so many obstacles, so it is very challenging in Pakistan to develop and grow, flourish the IT industry. So there's nothing bad in it. If he gets some unfavorable, undesirable result from his study, you can't do with anything. It is not your fault. You have done your analysis and this is what your finding is. On the contrary, the solution of any problem, the first step of the solving any problem is, the first step is to recognize, to accept, yes, there is a problem. If you accept it, then you will try to go for solving it. But then very first stage, no, it is not the problem, then you can't have a solution. All right. So then in suggestions and recommendations, you can suggest, okay, you can take this step to correct it. Then we will talk about flourishing. So same, like there are like probability distributions are there, and apart from that, mean median mode, then NOI or correlation, regression, these are all measures of central tendency, and you can use it whenever you want to use it and whatever you want to use it. Now, whenever, like somebody was saying me that they have used sample of 30 and Hasan is definitely using. So these are the questions are very much important to answer if somebody is using the sampling method. How was the sample selected? What is the size of sample? Where the sample is related? Was probability of sample used? What type of variable used? And is this sample size enough? Now you can't ask 30 people just randomly and present the result. Oh, this is for the whole Australia. No. Okay. You need to have an adequate sampling to derive the result. Your marks will be gone. Okay. So if you are using 30 out of like 200,000, 30, and you are just taking reference from 30 respondents only, then your sampling method is completely wrong. And if your sampling method is wrong, your research methodology wrong. If research methodology wrong, that means your analysis, data collection, everything is wrong. And if your data collection itself is wrong, so how comes anybody can give you mark in findings and analysis and conclusions? So everything is very, very much interrelated. I don't want again, okay, to have any misconception. If you have doubt, any questions, please do not hesitate to ask me after the session. So depending upon your objective, depending upon the data, you can select your statistical test, because this test also not useful for everyone. There are certain objectives, some tests are useful. There are certain other objectives, some other tests are useful. So you need to know which is the most applicable test for your analysis. How would you know it? Through the literature review. Okay, when you are doing literature review, you are reading many research papers and textbook materials and internet resources while you are collecting the data. So you might get an idea, okay, these are the uh, important statistical tests or highly related and appropriate statistical tests that you can use it. Okay. So in summary, your data analysis is largely depend upon your objectives. In short, like, it is highly based on your objective. Based on your objective, you will decide like which data will be needed. Based on the required data, you will find where it can be available. Once you identify the source, you will identify how you get that data. Once you got that data, then you will use the appropriate statistical test and appropriate analytical tool to analyze that data. And based on that analysis, you will get finding. And based on finding, the conclusion will be there. So your objective, research methodology, analysis, findings, conclusion, everything is in straight line. Your conclusion must be answering your research question that you have submitted in assessment 1.